Hey there, YouTube. This is Lucifer Lake of Warden. Pardon the mess. Coming back at you with another video. Alright, this is going to be a very interesting arguing with the devil video. I'm not trying to flambe in just any person. It's not a troll who's commenting on my videos. It's not some idiot or whatnot. The irony with this video is I'm actually in a bit of a debate directly with the Church of Satan itself and members thereof. Now, I've had debates with him in the past, and whatnot. I've spoken with plenty of them. I've gained the respect of some of them. I actually have friends who are in the Church of Satan, who are actually major members of the Church of Satan in their high council, the Council of Nine, and whatnot, who have fed me information in the past. And I'm not going to out these members directly. Okay, I'm not going to say who they are. I'm not going to talk about any of that. But however, so last night, while I'm trying to actually eat dinner and do all my other stuff and eventually go to bed, I end up ironically getting into this accidental Twitter battle with the Church of Satan and some of its membership. Now the irony is they had ousted some person who was being an idiot to them, trying to claim that they were all atheists who just created a religion or a religious organization to file for tax exemption. Well, here's the thing. Years ago, Anton LaVey did initially file for a tax exemption. He had it for a short time through the city of San Francisco, but then it was revoked. After that, the Church of Satan has always paid its taxes. And this has been going on for decades now. And I made the point that Church of Satan has paid their taxes for decades. Now, I made a few other minor comments and whatnot, and I said, sorry, but that's just how it is to the Church of Satan. Talking about how what the Church of Satan is now is not how it used to be. Okay? And that there is actually subgenres of LaVeyanism nowadays. So, they start getting into this big old Twitter battle. Oh, no, we haven't changed at all, and all this time. Yeah, you have. Sorry. That's just how it is. On one of the big arguments was, did Anton LaVey actually believe in a very real devil? Was Anton LaVey an atheist? And was atheism ever part of Anton LaVey's church? Now, I've pointed out in previous videos that no, it was never part of the Church of Satan. As a matter of fact, before Peter H. Gilmore, all the rhetoric of the Church of Satan said no, atheism has nothing to do with us, because atheism doesn't have ritual. It doesn't have anything. It is just a philosophy of life. And Satanism has ritual, it has rhetoric, it has structure and organization. It even has places of worship, i.e. in our own homes for the most part. We have, we have all this. We have the ability to marry people. We have a priesthood. Atheism doesn't have a priesthood. Atheism has, for many years, I know that atheism now is, people are trying to say, oh, it's religion now. No, it's not. It's not a religion. Okay? And I think even the Church of Satan can say, yeah, atheism's not a religion. Satanism is a religion. Okay? Now, here's the thing. I pointed out, I'm not going to go into the full Twitter battle. To be quite honest, if you were to see my desk now, you'd realize just how big of a mess things here are in my house, because we are in the process of a major move to South Carolina and whatnot. So my computer desk is such a mess that I don't even have room to reset up my laptop to go digging through stuff, and certainly not go digging through YouTube, or not YouTube, but Twitter, to read out some of the comments. So I'm not even going to go into that, because I film with my phone. Okay, so either way, one of the arguments was that um, none of this stuff, two sources were not to be credited because it wasn't written by Anton LaVey. Now, one of these sources is the Grotto Master's Handbook. The other source, give me 1 second here, is the Cloven Hoof, Volume 6, from 1974, the July through August edition. And in it is an article. Now, I'm going to be quite honest here. I don't have a solid copy of this article or of this edition of the Cloven Hoof. This is something that I dug up online. And I'm not going to go through the whole article here. I printed it out because this is actually sort of my grimoire. This is what I read my rituals out of, and where I store hard copies of my own personal articles that I've written. And this article is part of a bigger chapter to what I've been writing for a while now. So this article right here says that yes, Satan actually exists. And this is from 1974. The argument was with the Church of Satan is that before 1975, the Church of Satan was a vastly different beast. That there were, in fact, members of the Church of Satan that actually believed in a very real Satan. And they were never chastised for this. And, the rules changed after 1975. Well, the argument that they're making is that the rules never changed. It's just people didn't get it or whatnot, or the rules weren't enforced. Well, here's the thing. If you have rules and you never enforce them, then suddenly, after a decade, you do enforce them, then the rules technically have changed. They may have been there, but they weren't there. Even if that's the case. And regardless of that, a group of people did not like the new way things were going down, and they left. They formed the Temple of Set, and that was part of my argument. Now, this article came from the year right before that. And in it, I'm not going to read the full article. But what I am going to read is the section in which I'm referencing. And it goes, is it really any wonder, then, that the Church of Satan withdrew literal Satanism from the public arena? In our pronouncements, publications, press releases, the devil became an allegory for materialism and the unchained human ego. Speaking in such terms, we could continue to gain the ear of the people who really mattered, the de facto Satanists of the world. Had we continued to champion a literal devil, media distortion would have lumped us together with nut elements, and our access to serious channels of communication would have been seriously impaired. Before I continue, what he is doing, he is actually responding to another person who actually wrote in a question to the Cloven Hoof, talking about why is things so toned down now? Where did the literal devil go? And he's answering right here. And I don't know who the actual author is, but this is from the Cloven Hoof, and so I can only assume that it is either Anton LaVey or somebody in his inner circle. Regardless, this had to pass Anton LaVey's desk, and he had to put his stamp of approval on it. So, going to continue now. Now we have reached the end of the boom. The Exorcist was the last gasp. A few of the occult flower children still remain, but they have become relics, throwbacks, within their own subculture. No one listens to them. They have nothing new to say, One by one, rats deserting a sinking ship. They quietly lay aside their capes, swords, and amulets. It's all over. Time to find a new toy. And so it is that Satan awakes. To his disciples, who after long years of frustration are minded to leave Rome, he appears echoing God's admonishment to St. Peter. Where goest thou? Having seen so much, having partaken of my knowledge, having known me for what I truly am, use not my trust and confidence. Return to Rome, and together we shall begin the building of a new empire. This next sentence is what I'm really referencing. And I quote, "Indeed, Satan exists, not just a myth, nor a mere psychological archetype, nor as only a colorful figure of speech, but as an essential, intelligent entity." And that there is the crux of the whole thing. This is from the Cloven Hoof. Okay. From 1974, a year before the famous schism between Aquino and Anton LaVey. And as you can see, I have an audience. Okay. Really, girl. I get tail wags. You knew this, Winston. Don't deceive yourself. You did know it. You have always known it. The tongue in which his name is voiced is unimportant, just as the shapes and substances of his manifestations are unimportant. And there we have it. Right from the Cloven Hoof, a year before the famous schism, or schism, or however you want to pronounce it. This had to pass Anton LaVey's desk in order to get approved at that time to be published. It had to pass his desk. He had to have read the article. He had to have put his stamp of approval on it. It doesn't matter if he wrote it or not. He authorized it. And there, right there, is the nail in the coffin. Anton LaVey authorized, at the very least, if not authored, an article in the Cloven Hoof that flat out said that yes, Satan exists. Now, let's add some further context to this. The Satanic Bible has had many individuals to write the introduction to it. People who knew Anton LaVey personally. One of these individuals was Burton H. Wolfe. Okay? And in his introduction, he says on page 17, in his introduction, in LaVey's view, the devil was much more than Satan representing a dark, was much more than Satan represented a dark. Hang on, I've lost myself. In LaVey's view, the devil was much more than Satan represented a dark, hidden force in nature, or than that. I'm sorry, I need to edit this. This is probably one of my pre-edits, because this is taken exactly from Burton, Wolfe's thing, and yeah. So it goes, in LaVey's view, the devil was much more than that. Satan represented a dark, hidden force in nature that was responsible for the workings of earthly affairs for which science and religion had no explanation or control. My apologies for me stumbling over that. Literally, there is no period there. On this very same page, he goes on to say, for one thing, LaVey explains, calling it a church enabled me to follow the magic formula of 9 parts outrage and 1 part social respectability that is needed for success. But the main purpose was to gather a group of like-minded individuals together for the use of their combined energies in calling up the dark force in nature that is called Satan. Now, if you'll excuse me really briefly, as you can see, she wants out. Sorry about that, folks. Kelly needed to go out. So, that is from Burton H. Wolf's introduction to the Satanic Bible. Now, you can find this introduction in the underground PDF version of the Satanic Bible. It's 2nd edition. The thing is that there is so much evidence. They tried to claim, one of the other things was, read the first paragraph of Wanted, God, Dead, or Alive chapter in the Satanic Bible. Well, I went back and I reread it. I read it on my phone and whatnot. Now, apparently, this opening paragraph is supposed to express Anton LaVey's atheism. At no point in this paragraph or any other paragraph does Anton LaVey call himself an atheist. If anything, he says that he actually believes that there is a God, just not in the way that most people believes it. And this expresses that. He believed that God, of whatever version you want to call it, is, here we go, is just an energy force in nature, a very undercurrent to it. Now, that first paragraph I actually have right here. It says, one of the greatest fallacies about the practice of ritual magic is the notion that one, oh, my bad, this is the wrong article, the wrong thing. My bad. That's wrong. It's the wrong part. As you can see, I actually have a lot of things here. And this is just one article. So, yeah. Basically what it is, it's talking about God being real, that he's just an energy force. He's what man makes him. Alright? And I'm going to point out that my fiance, after reading this argument that I had with Church Satan, pointed out a previous YouTube video that we found. It was an interview between Anton LaVey and Joe Point or something. I can't remember his last name. But it was a television show, and he gets asked a question by an audience member, and he says, yes, I do believe in God. You know? And he pretty much describes exactly what he said in the Satanic Bible in that chapter. And it's the first chapter titled Wanted, God, Dead, or Alive. And basically he's saying, we made God. Okay? That doesn't negate on him being real or not. If he is real to us, that's it. He has influence over our lives. Same goes for Satan. But the main point is at no point in time did he ever call himself an atheist. Now, another article was linked to me. I have yet to actually go ahead and read it. But here is the thing. All of that is negated by this article in the Cloven Hoof that had to pass Anton LaVey's desk and pass his approval that says, indeed Satan exists, not just as a myth, nor a mere psychological archetype, nor as only a colorful figure of speech, but as an essential intelligent entity. That one line right there, in an article that had to pass Anton LaVey's approval, at the very minimum, if not being written by his own hand, negates any argument of atheism in the pre-1975 Church of Satan, because this article was written and published in 1974. There's other evidences that came from secondhand sources as well, such as from Blanche Barton herself only days after he passed away. And I quote, Anton LaVey believed in the devil. She was later criticized by O. Wolf on this. It should also be noted that all satanic rituals reference Satan as a literal being. Satan is often referenced as such in many Church Satan sources, including, quite notably, the Grotto Master's Handbook by Blanche Barton. I believe that's who the author of it is. And it says, be warned that when you enter a ritual with a posture of arrogance, like a demanding, challenging child, your master will not be pleased and will slap you down hard. Satan expects you to be respectful, not groveling, prideful, but not arrogant in front of him. He expects you to be useful to him, and he will support you as long as you amuse him. He ritually rewards sincere dedication and steadfast loyalty. Do not fear that you can't pronounce the Enochian keys right, or you didn't speak the invocation exactly as you had written it out ahead of time. He'll understand as long as you feel the passionate dedication you claim, and you continue the ritual in a way that entertains him and compels him to stay in your presence. Certain ritual elements are absolutely necessary to set the stage that invites Satan and his minions to join you. But he will know the difference between a sincere dedication, softly whispered, and a pompous sham, no matter how loudly declared. Remember well, demons will enter you if you are an unworthy host. If you harbor secret fears or residual Christianity in any form, if you are frivolous in your intentions towards the dark side, they will scent it like a pack of wolves and bring you down mercilessly. Many a sorcerer or sorceress before you has fallen to ruin and destruction in this way, even after years of intimate contact with the infernal ones. That is a quote directly from the Grotto Master's Handbook. Another quote from the Grotto Master's Handbook is, the Church Satan's Grotto Master's Handbook application requires a prospective Grotto Master who are individuals that lead a local chapter of the COS followers to perform a self-initiation ritual before you complete the application. When you sense the time is right, perform a ritual using the basic elements described in the Satanic Bible to petition Satan and the Dark Legions to accept you as a Grotto Master. Write down the ritual you performed and the result, if any. That is also from the Grotto Master's Handbook. It's quite comical that this handbook now only exists to the public in a PDF format. But it's there. It is there. This was during Anton LaVey's reign. And he had this published to his own people. Externally, post 1975, LaVeyan Satanism had an ambiguous, almost atheistic feel to it. But it's quite clear that internally, they still do believe in a Satan. And when we get to pre-1975 Satanism, probably the biggest difference was that both internally and externally, a belief in a real Satan was not condemned, even promoted. I'm going to close this out with a few minor quotes that further prove my point. In a letter from Zena LaVey Schreck to MAA, whoever that is, 12/30/90. So this is 1990. Anton LaVey was still alive. December 30th. My unfather should never have carelessly tampered with the authentic forces of darkness that he now idiotically believes are his own creation. It's pretty harsh, but that was Zena LaVey. Burton Wolf's account in The Devil's Avenger states that LaVey sensed the powers of darkness that he felt compelled to formalize into a church, only vaguely as a dark force in nature, as stated by LaVey himself in the Satanic Bible. Wolf claims that LaVey thought these powers of darkness could be activated through ceremonial and personal magic to fulfill individuals' needs and desires. LaVey identified this dark force, quote unquote, as Satan. Ed Weber and others suggested the idea of making a satanic church to Anton LaVey in early 1966. This business with Ed Weber and others is documented in meticulous detail in Michael Aquino's book, The COS, page 27. Michael Aquino interviewed Ed Weber later on. Aquino, since 1975, LaVey has insisted that he never believed in the existence of an actual devil or Satan, that Satan was only a symbol or a metaphor. Was this true when you knew him? Weber: not at all. He was quite definite that he did believe in the existence of Satan. This was exactly what made the concept of the Church Satan so fascinating. That was on the COS book by Michael Aquino, page 27. On page 28 of Michael Aquino's COS book, he recounts that he found out that when LaVey formed the Church Satan in 1966, LaVey privately handwrote and signed a personal pact with Satan titled My Pact, quote unquote. LaVey showed Aquino a locked metal strongbox with his personal copy of a book. The only other item in the strongbox was the pact. Finally, it says, belief in a literal devil was automatic in all communications that Michael Aquino had with Anton LaVey. He was the second highest person in the Church Satan next to Anton LaVey until 1975. Michael Aquino now runs and operates the Temple of Set. And, well, I don't know if he runs it anymore. He might be retired because he is getting up there in age, but he is still a very respected member of the Satanic community. He is also an active member on the 600 Club, founded by Carla LaVey, as part of her first Satanic Church. This is going to be my final point on the matter. It should be noted that both Anton's daughters separated from the Church Satan and quoted themselves being said to, or are quoted as stating that what the Church of Satan currently is not their father's Satanism. Carla LaVey now operates the First Satanic Church out of San Francisco. She was once the high priestess of the Church of Satan next to Blanche Barton and her sister Zena LaVey after Anton's death. So when you have both daughters separating and saying, hey, this ain't right, and both go off and they do their own thing, and the elder daughter takes with her a lot of the old school members and they formulate or reformulate the original organization, where does that leave Church of Satan? Church of Satan has developed and changed over the years. It is still Satanism, albeit a different type of Satanism. And this is the crux of my point. Many people outside of the Church of Satan, like myself, now refer to it as Gilmorean Satanism. It is seen as an atheistic, strange, alien way of approaching LaVey's literature. Literature that he was quite clear in many sources was not atheism. It contradicts literature that was established before Gilmore's rule. Before Peter H. Gilmore took over the Church of Satan, atheism had no part in publicly at all in Satanism. Now, this could be argued that in post-1975 LaVeyan Satanism, up until his death, LaVey was an atheist. This is arguable. And I just proved that right there. The Grotto Master's Handbook, clearly a private document meant to be wielded only by the Grotto Masters running various groups around the country, would have access to, flat out states that Satan is real. This points out the popular opinion and fact that externally Satan was not being promoted as a literal devil or as a literal being, but internally he was. The Church of Satan will continuously downspeak anybody who points out this stuff to them. They will try to argue it and whatnot. And it is a sad, sad thing when you have an organization that then turns around and denounces its own literature because its own literature contradicts their popular narrative. I find it ignorant. I find it stupid. Because in my opinion, there is nothing wrong with Gilmore's Satanism. It serves a purpose. I do not agree with it by no stretch or means. But there is nothing wrong with it. The really sad part of all this is that if the Church of Satan wanted to negate any of these arguments, all they have to simply do is acknowledge them and say, yes, that is how it used to be. But it changed. First changed in 1975, and we lost a lot of members, and the Temple Set was formed. It later changed after Anton LaVey's death, inevitably culminating in Peter H. Gilmore inevitably taking over the Church of Satan, which resulted in Carla LaVey and Zena LaVey both leaving the Church of Satan and forming their own groups. The change in rhetoric is not a negative thing. Even Anton LaVey said, should, and he's in the Satanic Bible, flat out says, should something no longer function or work or operate as it should be, cast it out. Throw it to the winds, destroy it, whatever. Bring in the new. Bring in the new stuff that actually works. But this is not what Peter H. Gilmore and the current Church of Satan is trying to do. No. If anything, they are sitting there and they are trying to say, this is how it's always been. Clearly, it has not always been this way. Each leader of a group will have their own style. And sometimes their styles may change over the years, sometimes very dramatically, very suddenly, as proven in 1975. Up until that point, even if the rules were the same, they were never enforced, thus leading to a popular opinion amongst the Church of Satan that Satan was a real thing. After 1975, a lot of members had a bad taste in their mouth. This was Anton LaVey's inner core group, consisting of Michael Aquino and others. They left because of a disagreement, and they formed their own group. Michael Aquino, to this day, now has a very positive relationship with the LaVey family, with existing and living members of the LaVey family, including Carla LaVey. He is on 600 Club. He has had communications with him. In his recent book, the 50th anniversary revision of the Satanic Bible, members of the LaVey family actually promote his revisions, promote his outlook and his viewpoints. If members of Anton LaVey's own family, who cannot be argued, would have known him better than any outside member, any friend, or any acquaintance, people who lived with him 24/7, can agree with what an outsider is saying, can agree with what is being promoted there, and even back it up. I'm sorry, I'm going to follow them. I'm going to take a look at what's being said there. That's all I got for you folks today. This is a very long video, and I am sorry about that. If you have made it to this end, thank you so very much. This is stuff that needed to be said openly, and yeah, I'm glad that you made it to the end here. If you have an opinion, please tell me in the comments down below. All I ask, as usual, is please be respectful. If you like this video, if you like what I'm saying and whatnot, smash that thumbs up button, share it with all of your friends, family, loved ones, whatnot. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscription button down below. Hit that bell notification while you're at it. Until next time, this is Lucifer Lake Borden, and I'm out of here.